Hello and welcome to another episode of Transcontinental Overload. I'm Stephanie, your host, currently still in Austin, Texas, and also still in coronavirus lockdown. I'm still struggling to find my feet in all this. It's weighing on my mood, and so I'm really grateful that I had today's episode planned out beforehand. As promised last week, I'm talking to Kim Adams again, and it's such a relief that I didn't have to think much about this conversation, or indeed plan a lot about it, because it flowed quite naturally. And while I was still really struggling to focus and get my thoughts in the right order, and at times almost or barely could get my questions out right, Kim was on fire and luckily did most of the talking. For those of you who haven't listened to last week's episode and are not familiar with Kim, she's an American expat who has lived abroad for the last 10 years, 5 years in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and the last 5 years in Oman, where she lives with her husband, who's an international school teacher, and their 3 third culture kids. Kim is an expat coach and has just recently been certified by the Coach Coalition. Congratulations, Kim. And she has an amazing website called resilientexpats.com, which is all about helping expats deal with global transitions and how we can turn our worries and struggles into strengths and resilience. Make sure you visit her website because there's such a wealth of information and materials on there. You can sign up to be a VIP for access to the whole website. And very soon she'll be offering workshops and seminars. And also she's planning a podcast, but she'll tell you all about that in our conversation. So once more, let's welcome Kim and hear some more of her story. Hello, Kim. It's so nice to talk to you again. It's been, 4 weeks maybe since our last conversation? Mm-hmm. And oh my goodness, how have things changed since then? So
we're living in a different world, aren't we?
We're living in a different world indeed. And so I've really felt like after our last conversation, when this whole craziness kicked off, that I really needed to get you back on here because you're the person to talk to, really, because it's just, there's so much more that we didn't even get into in our last conversation. And hey, all of a sudden it's all even more relevant. So how are you doing? How has it been in Oman those last few weeks?
I would say overall, I'm doing pretty well, given the circumstances that we are in globally. I feel relatively relaxed and calm and secure here where we are. And I'm aware that part of that, a big part of that is the fact that information is really tightly controlled in this country.
Lucky you.
Yes, in a way. Yeah. So I don't know what how bad it really is, but our numbers are low. But it is different being in a place where everybody listens to the leader. When the leader says, this is what we're doing, everyone follows those instructions, and every decision affects the entire country at the same time in the same way. So that part is much more calm. And in the beginning, it felt like a slow response as we were watching what was happening in Italy, which was very close. And we have a lot of traffic back and forth, and we have even more traffic back and forth with Iran. And it felt slow.
Mm-hmm. So it must be, in a way, because it's just, I guess the situation is very different in the US, and listening to our leader is a whole different story. And all we are inundated with news, but also like from every angle. So you can read stuff on coronavirus 24/7 if you want to. And I feel like a lot of people are doing that and completely panicking.
Yeah.
And it's hard to kind of find the balance. So I feel that might be slightly different where you are, because it's much more of a, I don't want to say authoritarian regime.
Yeah, I think you could say that.
Maybe, yeah. So maybe this is the time to feel good in a system like that. Whereas,
maybe you want to call it a benevolent dictator, but yes, there's a level of control here that
Hmm.
Americans would never stand for in our country.
Oh
So,
no, it's and not just
um,
Americans. It's so many people are just up in arms against any restrictions that
right.
uh, curb their freedoms and all that. And
Hmm.
it's really hard to find the balance between, no, this we need to do this, or can we really rely on everyone to be sensible? And clearly we cannot, as we've seen.
Yeah.
Going back onto your website, I saw that you posted an article just last week, and it's
Hmm.
called "Why Expats Are Better Prepared to Deal with Uncertainty," and it really got me thinking, because
Hmm.
I've found that there's a lot of things that we as expats have. We just have, it's like a toolbox that we've developed during our time living abroad, moving countries, dealing with all these uncertainties that we might not even be aware of having, but we do. And sometimes that sense kicks in. And there has to be a silver lining in all this, because also as expats, we have to deal with so much extra stress during this time. And I'm sure you've
Hmm.
felt the same. It's this being so far from family and friends that you worry about, and knowing that you can't just get on a plane and get there if you need it. And that alone, I think, is hugely stressful. So,
Yeah, that is the one part of this that it feels different, is that sense I think most expats have in the back of their minds. It's just this little thing in your back pocket that if things got really grim,
mhm,
for whether it's the job or the economy or health or whatever it might be, well, we've got a tiny bit of savings, or we've got our credit card, and we can jump on a plane and go back to our safe place, wherever that might be. And so that's different right now. But honestly, as we have sat here looking into the US, which would be the only other place we would go
mhm,
if we were to leave, we were given we had about one day when we
mhm,
were told, if you want to leave, now is the time because the airport's going to close.
mhm.
And we both immediately said, no, we don't want to go anywhere. We feel better being here.
Yes,
So,
yeah. I have to say, I had a little wobble when the German embassy was calling on all Germans in the United States to return home to Germany as soon as they could. And well, I know that that was geared mostly towards people on holiday, people on business trips, or au pairs, temporary residents, and not permanent residents like myself.
mhm.
I had this moment of thinking, should I go back? Where do I want to be? Where do I want to be with my family? What's the safest place to be? And I
Mhm.
mean, part of me really thinks I would much prefer to be in Germany right now, even if the numbers there aren't great either. But in
Yeah.
terms of where do I feel safe? Where is home? It kind of, you reassess all that. But then obviously it's not an easy decision to make. And I'm here, I live here, my family is here. My husband does not have a German passport, and now doesn't
Mhm.
even have an EU passport. So he might not even be able to enter Germany. And
Oh my
those
goodness.
are
Yeah.
really big decisions. And I'm part of a couple of expat groups on Facebook, and the stories I've read over the last few weeks are heartbreaking. I mean, sometimes really families are torn apart. Families are trying to find a safe place
Mhm.
that where they can all be together, and sometimes it's just not possible. Someone was trying to get their son back from boarding school, but he couldn't enter. They live in Singapore, and Singapore had closed the borders and wouldn't let anybody in. So, and the son had a German passport, so they decided to all go to Germany and spend this time there. But then the dad did not have a German passport and couldn't go with them, and had to stay behind in Singapore. So
Wow.
they ended up being separated. And there are tons of stories like that, where people just have to make those heartbreaking decisions. All those people who are in the middle of an international move, waiting for the go ahead, and maybe part of the family's already gone, or maybe the container's already left. They've packed up their house and haven't got anything left, and now everything's in limbo, and no one knows where they're going to be when. Or like Sarah, who was on my podcast a few weeks ago, who's had to leave the US because her visa was running out, so they had to go back, but they couldn't take their dogs because all the flights were cancelled, so they had to leave the dogs here, and no one knows how long that situation is going to last.
Yes, those stories are really, really hard. And the people who don't have security of being part of the local system.
Oh
I
yeah,
saw some
absolutely.
discussions of people who, they had a job, and under normal circumstances they had plenty of security, but in these circumstances they were not feeling like the security net systems of the country were going to catch them as well. They felt outside of that.
So true. Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously there's the worry about your family back in your home country, your parents, and something
Mm-hmm.
happening to them. And like as we said earlier, you can't just get on a plane and go there. Not that people close by could just go there either. So
Exactly.
it's
No.
but still I think the physical distance it does weigh on my mind sometimes, where I think even if I
Mm-hmm.
was around the corner, I couldn't go there directly, but I would be much more involved with the system, making sure everything's okay. And whereas I'm thousands of miles away and in a completely different time zone, and it does weigh on my mind. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get back to the more positive side to being an expat with a lot of experience with long distance relationships. This whole being so far away, and this is one of the advantages that we have as expats. Communicating with people has been so much better, I find.
Yeah.
Being all of a sudden, it's almost like we have had Zoom parties all this time. Kind of feels like it. I've done this where I've talked to my mum, and we had a cup of coffee at the same time, and we'd get our knitting out and just talk. And so we have had 10 years of experience with that, and
Mm-hmm.
being friends and maintaining friendships over these distances, and making an effort to, because this is the only way we can communicate with them, is via FaceTime and WhatsApp and all these kind of things. And we got good at it, and we're used to it. And so many people are learning that right now, and are way more open to a FaceTime conversation, where before, how some people are very much like, I don't like this is very cold,
It's
and I just
strange.
feel really, really weird. I don't want to see myself on the screen, and I'm really not used to it. And all of a sudden people are
They're
overcoming all these.
receptive.
They're so receptive, and I'm loving it. You can see the light bulb, like, oh, why haven't we been doing this all this time? And it's lovely. So I feel like we have that advantage, that we're totally used to doing this.
Yeah. We're old hands. We can bring them up.
Exactly. So that's been good. I hope that we can maintain that now that everyone else is woken up to it.
Yeah.
I was mentioning your website, resilientexpats.com, earlier because of the recent blog posts that you've added. But then I was reading a little bit further back, even before, say, March. You posted some things back in November and December and January. And I'm just going to read the titles of those blog posts, because they were basically posted before the coronavirus really hit us directly, but they sound like they could be made for it. So one that you posted in November is called, "Are you prepared for minor emergencies overseas?" Obviously, this is probably a major emergency.
Yeah, different category, huh?
Different category. The other ones are called 3 ways to process stressful events.
Mm-hmm.
Making it easier to talk to kids about challenging topics. Should you, and then this is taking us into March, should you stockpile groceries to be prepared for emergencies?
Yes, that was as this was all ramping up.
This was all kind of the beginning of it, where people were buying toilet paper.
Yeah.
And then the one I mentioned earlier, why expats are better prepared to deal with uncertainty. And so I'd love to go through them maybe one by one
Okay.
to just see how relevant they are. And it's almost like it's like a nice build up to
Now that you say all that, it sounds
now
very nice.
it's isn't it crazy though? But yeah, are you prepared for minor emergencies overseas? What's your emergency plan? I mean, that is obviously such a big one, and especially now. So what made you write that blog post?
I wanted to kind of take my experiences, our family's experiences over the past 10, 11 years, and things that we had seen our friends and acquaintances come up against. And most of them are what you would consider everyday emergencies, or you might not even use the word emergency, but everyday events that can really throw you off when you're in a different culture and don't really know your way around. And a small thing can really just cause you so much emotional distress. And so this was an attempt to systematically, or organize all of that, put it into a format that's easy to understand, easy to work through, and kind of empower you to say, oh yeah, actually, if I just take 5 minutes and think about this in advance, I could handle it. And it's just taking a little bit of that thought process and bringing it forward, so that when you're caught off guard, you have a little something to fall back on because you thought through it at least partway in advance.
And as you said, sometimes it's really only sitting down for 5 or 10 minutes and compile a list. And when you know what to put on that list, when you have like some guidelines and what to, then it's really achievable.
And sometimes, well, we have so much else that we're trying to figure out,
Mm-hmm.
that this is not the sort of thing that rises to the top of your to-do
Mm-hmm.
list. So that's
Yeah.
another reason I wanted to just put it out there and put it in a format that people that makes it accessible and easy to do, because
Yeah.
it's not going to be at the top of your to-do list. But if you needed some of those items, then
Yeah.
it makes such a huge difference.
I found that when we moved to California, there
Yes.
was because I was so freaked out about the earthquake situation. So I went full steam ahead and went to emergency preparedness meetings, and I had this grab bag, the to go bag ready in my car at all times. And I knew where you can shut off the gas and the water and that kind of stuff. So that was for me, I had to do that, but everyone was laughing at me. So what would those things be, just kind of in a
Yeah.
nutshell?
Some of the things are around making sure your kids feel safe and secure and stable in situations like being out and about when you get separated from each other, and it's not necessarily the same as where you just came from. The instructions you would have given them might be radically different, and so making sure that they know what you as a family expect in situations like that. Some of it is around your house and knowing how to deal with stuff that happens around the house, plumbing issues and utility issues.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is around transportation. Do you know how you would handle it if you got pulled over on the side of the road? Are you supposed to get out of the car or not? That's
Mm-hmm.
very different in different places.
Mm-hmm.
And are you supposed to offer money to pay your bill on the spot or not? This can have very
Oh, yes.
different ramifications depending on your context.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of it is about thinking about different types of situations you could encounter, and then knowing who it is that you're going to call for help in that situation, whether it's medical or
Mm-hmm.
transportation or just any type of situation, because you would have maybe a really different group of
Mm-hmm.
people you would call for a medical question than you would for, hey, my car broke down on the side of the road. But you still need to have all those phone numbers handy. Make that list
Mm-hmm.
in your head or in your phone or on paper or somewhere, so that you can remember that
Yeah.
you actually do have those people you can call. Because when you're in the crisis situation, I know from personal experience, all that stuff just goes out the
Yes.
window, and it's really hard to think and remember.
And I guess also have your family be on the same page and so that they have a list too, because I feel
Yeah.
I'm the one writing down numbers, but no one else actually knows who's on the list or where the list is even. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So sharing the information. I think it's good also to review with your kids every so often. I mean, I don't make it a big deal. I don't want to scare them or make them feel worried.
No.
So I don't want to plant ideas in my kids' head about
Hmm.
all the possible bad things that could happen. But I do bring things up in a matter of fact yet lighthearted kind of a way, and
Hmm.
just go with what, if they're asking questions, then I answer their questions. And I don't
Hmm.
pile on a whole bunch of extra information that they're not ready to
Hmm.
absorb.
Which takes us to the your other blog post about how to talk to kids about challenging topics, because obviously when you make a contingency plan for emergencies and unusual situations, you have to bring up dangers and the, as you said, you don't want to scare them, but at the same time you have to make sure that they understand the severity of the situation. And as we can see right now
Hmm.
with this whole social or physical distancing, how important it is. um, Trying to explain that to your child might be hard.
Yeah, in one of those articles, I referenced a podcast I had listened to,
Hmm.
and it really challenged me. I thought I was doing a pretty good job with how I talked with my kids about serious topics and challenging topics.
Yes, that's the one, preemptive love. I put a link in the show notes.
Yes, that really challenged me. Gave me a lot to think about. And it does depend on your context somewhat. You know, they were speaking from a context where they were constantly dealing with really heavy, really serious issues in their community and their friends. And so, you know, their kids were just absorbing it through the fact of life. And I think where we live right now, my kids are relatively protected from a lot of the bad news in the world. That's another part of having really controlled information here. The media is not just in our face all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and the internet, they don't have access to everything on the internet. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I think it depends on your living context as well. But just giving them real facts that, yes, you pick and choose to present a reassuring picture by telling them what we do know, what helpful measures are in place already, who we can rely on to help us in these types of situations. Give some historical context, you know, until the eyes glaze over, then you go, oops, I went too far.
Yeah. And also I feel like if you are that family who does sit down together and find a way to talk about hard things, difficult things, then and the kids are used to knowing that their parents are interested in creating that, then I feel for kids in, say, take coronavirus right now and the situation, the kids already know that they can come to you and you know that you're going to sit down and talk about what's going on and what's happening. And I think that in itself
Exactly.
is super helpful for kids in particular to just know, right, this is what we do. We sit down as a family and we talk about these things. So there will be
Yeah.
a plan, and within that plan there might be uncertainty and we don't know the all the details, but they have that sense of security in the family that they will be taken care of, and they're part of this we all kind of take care of each other mentality. And I
Hmm.
think that
Hmm.
is huge for any any crisis situation. And that's probably what a lot of people um who haven't been put in a position like that, where they've had to adapt to a completely new country and with different rules and regulations and the unknown, might just not even see that it's necessary to do that. So I kind of feel that's another layer that where
Hmm.
expat life has prepared kids for things like this in a way that maybe some people who just never had to think about those things haven't.
Yeah, it's just part of life experience that we come into situations where we're totally thrown off balance. We don't know what's going on. It makes us feel really uncomfortable and unsure, and sometimes it's scary. It's very disconcerting to not know how to communicate and to not know how to find what you need, just basic necessities for survival.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, we've been through that a few times.
I also feel like the whole approach of having the family involved in making a contingency plan is great, because I think it's important to see, for your kids to see also, that you might not have all the answers all the time. You're thrown into an unknown situation and you have to figure it out. And I think for children to see that is very important.
Yeah.
Obviously, that happens in everybody's lives, but I think it happens especially with expat experiences.
Hmm.
Moving into a completely new context.
Yeah, I think it's so important for parents to express the ways that they are struggling
Hmm.
when when you're not in a crisis situation. I mean, sometimes it feels like a crisis when you're moving into a new culture because it's so overwhelming and it's so busy. But yeah, just take a moment to step back and say, wow, I am struggling with this, and then name what it is and ask your kids what
Hmm.
they're struggling with. And, it just kind of helps you
Hmm.
be on the same page together, learn from each other. But I think it builds that emotional resilience
Hmm.
for the kids when the parents do let them know when they are struggling.
Hmm.
Of
Yeah.
course, I mean, earlier I said you want to give them a reassuring picture, but there, I think there's a time and place for both. And I
Yes.
think you can do both by saying, I am struggling, and yet I have this broader long term perspective as an adult
Hmm.
that I can see there's a nation of people around me who live a different way. And so we will figure it out, even
Hmm.
though it feels really hard right now. Yeah, I think you can do both at the same time.
Yes, I think so too. And like you said, there's a whole nation of people around you, and you just have to reach out and ask for help. And I think it's always really good for children to see that their parents do that.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things that you can figure out for yourself, but you have to reach out for help. If they're used to that happening, then at whatever stage they are in their lives, when they're on their own somewhere or they've moved to another country by themselves, they've seen it happen and they can do
Yeah.
it. And I love that idea that they're not even aware of having been given this all those tools, but actually they do have a lot of
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
then especially at uncertain times, like the time we're in now, it's yeah, they don't realize that they might be, I don't want to say maybe coping better with the situation. At least they are prepared for all the feelings they're having right now.
Yeah. The feelings are familiar. And I think it is a helpful coping mechanism to know that we're going to come out the other side. And that's what they have learned through their life experience, is that we have these feelings and then we come out the other side and
Hmm.
we're okay again. And yeah. So when you said that, like, they're not even aware, and I think us as adults, we're not all that aware of the
No.
skills we have. And that's one of the
Yeah, that's
reasons I
true.
wrote that post,
Yeah.
because I wanted to, it took me a couple of weeks to just let it ruminate and uh, be in my mind, and I chewed on it quite a bit before I was really able to put all that into words. Um, and I wanted to put that out, that other people could have those words too. I saw this discussion in a group of third culture kids. So I don't know the ages of these people, but they range, I believe these are third culture kids, people who identify as third culture kids, and they might be teenagers all the way on up through octogenarians and beyond.
Hmm.
So they've had a wide range of experiences. But I saw someone post who said, hey, am I the only one? Or are you guys feeling this too? That I don't think I feel about this pandemic the way other people around me feel about it. And then, oh my goodness, all the comments that came out, people saying, I don't feel in a panic the way I see people around me. I don't feel like I'm in a crisis in the same way as people around me. And they were very clear to say, I'm concerned. I
Hmm.
see this as a very serious situation. I think it's going to get worse
Hmm.
before it gets better. But they just had this kind of internal sense of calm. I don't know if calm is the right word, but this a sense of perspective maybe is what it is, that I've been through bad things before,
Hmm.
and it's bad while we're in it, and then we come out the other side and we put the pieces back together and we go on with life. And one comment in particular just stopped me in my tracks, and it was buried in the middle of a paragraph, but this lady said, "We know how to wait in the unknowing." And I just loved those words. I felt like that just captures the essence of what we go through as expats when
Hmm.
we're in that time between two cultures, really,
Hmm.
before we have adapted and come out the other side.
Hmm. So true. And it's that not that we're better at it, but we know what it feels like. And to that
Yeah.
that is just that recognizing that and
Yeah, there's a
recognizing that
process.
that that is part of the, yes, exactly, and your body, your physical reactions and all that. And I think just to be familiar with that, even if you think, oh no, I hate feeling like this, um here it is, I know, I
Yeah.
have to get through.
Yeah.
But even that is, I think, better than just panicking and just not knowing what to do in these times right now. I like to focus on the positives, feeling my resilience, even though on some days, and we said this at the beginning of our conversation, some days you just feel so bad and you have insomnia and your worries overtake you. But knowing deep down that we have the resilience to deal with it is huge.
Hmm. Well, and on that note of knowing that we have the resilience, as my coach was just reminding me yesterday, that resilience is a practice, and it's something that we have to keep practicing.
Hmm.
And it's not just like you wake up one day and all of a sudden have a bucket load of resilience because I want it today.
Hmm.
It's because you have been practicing over weeks and months and years to have the habits of t- giving yourself enough of a priority to take the time and care to give yourself space, to give yourself a break when you need a break. Um, those are the things that over time build up into resilience. And then you have a greater capacity when we're in a more intense period like we are now.
Yes, absolutely. I already feel much better, much calmer after our conversation, which is nice. I go from having a good day full of activity and just kind of being able to distract myself and using all the resources we have, and enjoy any spare time I have, and see all the good. And then other days I wake up and I feel this sense of dread and impending doom. Uh,
Hmm.
so it's really good to be reminded of all the strengths I can find in myself. So yeah,
Hmm.
thank you for that. That was it
My
feels really
pleasure.
nice. And
Yes.
I love your website, and I think those blog posts are really so relevant right now. And when we talked last time, you were mentioning developing workshops for families and schools. How is the progress on that? Because obviously your situation right now is probably different. You're at home homeschooling your
Hmm.
kids with probably a lot less spare time to work on those.
Exactly. It feels more intense on that side of things. Uh, I had a lot of momentum. I've got a podcast coming down the pike. I've got these workshops that I want to actually get out into the world. And I have just finished training program, and now I am licensed to facilitate a fantastic coaching program for expats
Oh,
through the Expat Coach
congratulations.
Coalition. Yes, thank
Oh,
you.
that sounds amazing.
So that is ready to go. And
Mhm.
so I have a lot of things that I need to get out. And I haven't had as much time in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So yes, it's still in. Last time we talked, I said May. So I'm still holding myself to that.
Very good.
Sometime in May, if not before.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah, I look forward to it too. So I can't wait to check it out. And in the meantime, your website offers a lot of free resources too, so people can sign up and become a VIP. And there's a lot of material on there. And I feel, even for non-expats, there's a lot of information on that. So I can really recommend it. Yeah, well, thank you again,
Thank you
Kim.
so much.
Thank you for taking the time. And well, let's stay healthy, let's stay at home, and let's not lose our sanity.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So that's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know we went pretty deep and serious in places, and I'm feeling quite emotional. It's good to talk about feelings. It's good to name them. And good to acknowledge them, and also to remind ourselves that we all have strength and resilience inside of us. But also, let's try to be kind to ourselves and acknowledge that some days we might not be in touch with our strength and resilience, because it's totally fine to not feel okay. In the meantime, let's stay healthy, let's stay home, and let's stay busy. See you next time.